Hello everyone, welcome to my vlog post number one. So I'm going to answer the question, how have the concepts, ideas, theories, and or issues addressed in the unit helped me see myself as a participant in a liberal democracy as an emerging information professional? The first thing that I think about is that I feel like I have a better understanding of both sides of the political spectrum and how it pertains to information. For me, the negative liberty and positive liberty lectures and readings was the most impactful for me, particularly because I work at a library where most of the staff is more, of course, invested in a positive liberty approach, trying to give people free services, give them the resources and skills they need to be successful in society. But most of the patrons are more of a negative liberty, come from a more negative liberty mindset. It's a conservative town, but it helps me connect to patrons more to understand their point of view, that they just want to have absolute freedom. They just don't want to have the government impeding on anything, whether it's their freedom of speech or how they want their education to be. I feel like it just gives me a little bit more understanding of the philosophy behind where their perspective lies. And I can understand how they might feel threatened by certain policies that come from the positive side of liberty, where they might feel like it's infringing on their rights as a citizen in a liberal democracy. And it's funny because I think ultimately the positive liberty folks and the negative liberty folks both want the same thing. They just want everyone to have rights and to live in a just society, but it's just what justice means to them is different. And we discover in the readings that it's not, we can't really have, equality cannot be the goal, because you are not paying attention to or thinking about marginalized groups and how to help them, or even people that don't use the library, right, who would benefit from it more than anybody. We can't just say, well, we're here, anyone can come in, they have an equal opportunity to come in, but do they have childcare? Do they have transportation? So from the positive liberty standpoint, you would be trying to find ways to do outreach, Wi-Fi hotspots, bookmobiles, going to schools, going to daycares, trying to make sure that those people who might not have access to the library as easily are proactively getting that access. But yeah, so that's what it made me think of originally in terms of my participation in a liberal democracy. It also made me feel good to know that I don't always have to be neutral. I think going into librarianship, I felt like I had to be neutral all the time, when in reality, there's a lot of scholars like Dr. Saunders who encourage us to not be neutral. and that especially teaching information literacy, it's not a neutral act, and that you are trying to get someone to see how to think and not what to think, which I feel very passionately about and strongly about as a former teacher. I think that's really important. But the same applies as a librarian, I think. But knowing that teaching people how to think and trying to make sure that everyone has access to this information and resources is not neutral. Whereas I think a lot of librarians would assume that that is neutrality, but it's not. When you're going out of your way to have a diverse collection, to see all sides of your community represented, that's not a neutral act. As we know, especially now with more book bans, there's actually a bill in my state that was at least tabled relating to obscene books in public and school libraries. So at least that bill was tabled for another year. So that will stop a little bit more of the book banning in my state. But yeah, those are all of the ways that the first unit has made me think about my participation in a liberal democracy, as well as an emerging information professional. Thank you.